22 years on from his incarceration by US authorities in America, Howard Marks is hitting the headlines currently for a whole lot of different reasons. For the movie of his book out at the moment starring Ryhs Ifans, and also he's on tour. We've managed to blag an audience with Mr. Nice himself. How you doing?
Alright, Mark, thanks. Yeah. Sorry it's a bit cramped here, but...
That's quite alright, it's quite alright. Do you know, I wanted to really kind of start with music, because that was the first time that I ever became aware of you and get drawn into the story, and it was the Super Furry Animals.
Alright, yes.
That kind of led me to kind of read the book and stuff like that as well, so just wondering how you first became aware of them.
Well, I'd heard about them in prison, you know, because I'd occasionally get magazines sent to me from friends from Wales that had come to prison in America. So I read about them and heard that they were good and that lots of people in Wales liked them, and they were beginning to sort of export a bit of street culture from Wales. And then I was walking around the exercise yard, and normally there was only like two kinds of music there, really, country and western, you know, and, or you could watch the TV room and watch hip hop. There wasn't anything else. And then suddenly there's a new band from over there, the Super Furry Animals, and they played a track. You know, I can't remember even which one now. Right, it was just like hearing their names sort of coming over that surges stuff in my mind. And then when I got released, unknown to me, they were just making their first album then. And my release was accompanied by some kind of publicity, so they wrote a song called Hanging Out with Howard Marks, which they put on their Fuzzy Logic album. And then Creation, who they'd signed up to, who called me up and told me this, you know. And I was obviously delighted. And they said, and they want to use all your false passport pictures for the cover, you know, which was a complete surprise, you know. You didn't expect anything like that. So I said, all right, I've got to go and see them. So I went to see them play in Pontypridd, I think it's called Pontypridd Civic Hall or Town Hall or something like that, just outside Cardiff. And loved their set, loved hearing them play the song about me. And they introduced me to Ryhs, you know, so it was quite a monumental day in my diary, that one. And loved their stuff, you know, and I think you know, it's great that they're still going, because you know, when it gets to about the third album, you know, it's a real test of your ability as singers or the band or whatever. And I think all their albums just get better and better, and the street cred increases, and they're still doing it. They're kind of splitting up in funny ways, not in any nasty sense, but Griff's doing a lot of solo stuff and everything, but they're all together as mates drinking in the pub still, you know.
So you mentioned that was the first time you met Ryhs. Can you describe that for us?
Yeah, it was. It used to be the singer. I didn't know this, but Griff just introduced me. I was a friend of ours called Ryhs, and at that time he was sleeping on Dav, the drummer's floor, talking drunkenly about becoming an actor one day. And but I got on with him. I mean, largely because of his cheeky punk attitude, I think, because he came up to me with a packet of skins and said, would you sign? So yeah, go. Sign them. And he looked with a bit of disappointment. Oh no, I meant everyone. And something about that endeared me to him. I can't think what it was, you know, but I enjoyed talking to him. Learned that he was seriously intended to be an actor, proper actor. He learned that I had written a book, but it hadn't yet been published because it was going through the legal editing process, which was a fucking headache for anyone really. So I don't know whether ever it would be published, but we did agree that should it be published and should it be made into a film, he could play me. You know, we shook on it. I've got a video here of the actual meeting. In fact, I don't know if we got time, but I've got it here. So it is documented, and you know, the BBC bought the TV rights and pretty much incarcerated the whole thing longer than I was incarcerated, and just sat on it, waiting for me to die so they could make a PC film about it.
So how did the film eventually come out? I know that I read that somewhere that there was a lot of names attached to it at one point, like Oliver Stone, like Sean Penn, stuff like that. All these names that were kind of mentioned in the same.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah. I mean, a lot of names are bandied around. I mean, I can only speak about the ones I know of personally, because there's bound to be some sort of fiction in that.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone, yes. You know, I mean, he was definitely interested, but I didn't meet him. Sean Penn was the most interested, and I met him. He sort of came over to London to have lunch with me, and met him a couple of times. And he was definitely interested, not so much in playing me or anything like that, just championing the cause of the film, really, more than anything else. Frank Rodham, who did Quadrophenia, he was also interested. Robert Jones, who did the Usual Suspects, he was interested. Lots of them were interested. I think something like 28 scripts were written. But you know, none of them passed muster. And then of course Rhys was getting more and more famous, right? He's become this big fucking actor now. So I thought, you know, at first it was me doing a young punk kid a favour, and I was almost begging him, come on, use your connections, get this thing done, you know. And that's pretty much what happened.
How did it finally kind of get off the ground? What was it? When did that start with?
When the BBC finally just gave up control, you know, with the lure of money to independent films, which was a company formed specifically for this purpose.
So how involved were you with the whole cinematic process of making the film?
None at all in terms of creative input. I mean, absolutely nothing. I linked around on set a few times because I was allowed to, you know, just for a bit of fun, really. But I would occasionally be asked questions, and obviously provided documentary evidence when they had to go through the legal wrangles of sort of doing it too. Rhys didn't have to ask me anything. Rhys didn't ask me anything at all, because we spent so much time with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I heard them say that he knew how you moved through space. So he didn't
that's
have to
right. Yeah.
go
No,
through
we just, you know, we've been on sort of enormous skating sessions, you know, several days long together, several times. You know, so like, we know each other very well. The only question he asked me was, I think, the name of a lullaby. Give me the name of a lullaby I used to sing to my kid before he went to sleep. I think that was the only question he asked.
So was it weird walking on set when by that point it was like one of your mates dressed up as you?
Yeah, it was very weird, you know, particularly the first time I saw him dressed up as me, because the first time I saw him dressed up as me is pretty much meant to represent me as I am now. Okay, like, I don't know if you've seen the film yet.
No.
Yeah. Well, there's a bit which is sort of like current, modern day, and then he's looking at me then. That was the weirdest. Seeing him looking at me as a kid, something wasn't so bad. But seeing him sort of dressed up like an old geriatric kind of stoned, hunched up idiot like me was unnerving.
So were you around on set quite a lot for him to like, ask questions? Is this what really happened?
That never occurred really, because you know, I'd learned so much really about the process of making a film now. It's nothing. It's not a docudrama. You know, it's not trying to get anything the same, even though it's obviously based on a book. Some fictional shortcuts have been necessitated as a result of having to cut things out. You know, like the majority of the book isn't in there, obviously. Otherwise, I'd still be watching it, you know, for the first time. So there was no check-in with me at all, and the director had a very firm idea, you know, how he wanted to do every scene, and as far as I could tell, he was dead right in his choice.
What was it like for you to sit for the first time and watch it all the way through? And were there any parts that were either like amusing or a bit kind of harrowing to watch?
Well, getting back to being on set, I was thinking, the first time I sort of went to the set that was meant to represent my home, and the woman who was playing my mother was someone who just sat down and vaguely fancied, which I thought was very a little bit weird.
This is a what? Some Oedipus complex happening here.
But watching together, I mean, the first time I watched it all was the first time Rhys watched it all in some, like, I think, private directors only and people who were concerned with the making of the film. And kind of, we didn't actually hold hands, but it was kind of that sort of feeling, you know, nervous as fuck, holding each other and hoping, you know, that we both liked it.
Yeah.
And we did, you know, so that was okay. But yeah, that was nervous. Bit of a roller coaster ride, wasn't sure how much of it I could survive. You know.
Can you remember the first words you said to each other after it finished?
I think we just helped each other, you know.
Excellent. So obviously the tour, you're on tour at the moment, and this is coinciding with the film. For people that haven't, I saw you in Glasgow a few years ago now. I think it was the first Mr. Nice tour.
When was that?
God knows you. It was before the smoking ban anyway.
Before the smoking ban, yes. No, I'm sure the last time I performed it was before the smoking ban. I'm trying to think what to say to that.
What to do at the end.
Yes.
So for people that haven't really seen the tour so far, what does it involve?
It's the format is pretty basic, which is extracts modified from the book for some sort of stage presentation, and when possible, if the facilities allow, chucking in some video and audio in it. You know, that's basically the format, and the question and answer session at the end. So what goes up on the screen and what comes out of my mouth changes a little bit.
As the day goes
by. Yeah, that's the format. You know, and it's like usually 2 45-minute sets. Is it the same tonight? I think usually so. That, yeah. And that's it. It's me talking shit.
So a good storyteller then?
Well, so I understand. You know, I didn't think so. You know, but I'm even asked these days to read fairy stories at family festivals and things like that. Another surprising career move.
It's the Celtic tones.
Yeah.
So obviously, getting back to the telling of stories, I know you're working on a book at the minute. It's out next year. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So about?
Yeah, a book that's coming out next year.
Oh, the crime fiction book. Yeah. I mean, that's finished actually. I mean, it was finished about 6 months ago. But the publishers, being commercially orientated people, thought it would be better to release it, you know, after the film has had a chance to sort of get to a wider audience or something like that. So that's scheduled for release and will be released, I'm sure, beginning of March. It's called Sympathy for the Devil, so won't have to worry too much about the soundtrack for the show promoted that day. The movie. Set in Wales, and it's about drugs. But it is crime fiction.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, I heard it was about from a female police officer's point of view.
Yeah, I didn't want to sort of write it as someone who was obviously me, like you know, in some sort of verbal disguise. I wanted to write it from the point of view of someone opposite me in as many ways as possible. You know, at least meant different gender and different profession, and eventually a different character. Because the character develops as you write it. So, but that was the two basic things you had to have. She had to be a female.
She had to be a copper.
Yeah, she had to be a copper.
So even, I know, we bring it all back again, back to music. I was hearing yesterday that you also got a single coming out.
Yes. Well, a couple actually. There's one with Peter Hook, you know, Joy Division and New Order, Hooky, which is called Dark Star Diva. That's on the Freebase EP, and then there's one which is about to come out with Cav, the Happy Mondays, which is the one I've put a lot of work in. We both put a lot of work into that. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. It's my last chance to be a rock star.
Be a rock star?
Yeah.
You've not been living the life of a rock star?
Yeah, but I haven't been one.
So was that whole process about writing and recording and stuff like that? Do you enjoy that?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm not sort of, it's usually I sort of do the thing cross time, so I'm hopeless at talking in time, or sort of I couldn't take the place of sort of, you know, a hip-hop artist, or, but it's talking across time. You know, is the way one describes it. There's really basically someone who can't talk in time.
Is it under your own guise, or do you have a band name with?
No, it's under Cav's band. You know, I'm just sort of I write one of the songs that I'm a guest vocalist.
Excellent. Yeah. When's that coming
out? Very, very soon. I mean, this month. I think this month. Yeah.
So we might see you on top of the pops equivalent.
I doubt it. You know, I still don't think I'm PC enough for Top of the Pops.
Excellent, Harold. Thanks very much for your
time.
You're
welcome, man.
Cheers. I'll see you at the show tonight.
Okay, look forward
Thank you.
to it.